Been a minute. It's been a minute. Welcome to the Green Nurse Podcast, where we bring hope and inspiration for growth and healing. We're here to change the dialogue and stigma around what it means to feel good or be high, hence the H for hope, I for inspiration, G for growth, and H for healing. You deserve to feel good. We all deserve to feel good. And here is a little video about what we do in the cannabis space as nurses. And then we're going to get right into the show.
Change the paradigm of healthcare.
The Green Nurse is a holistic cannabis nurse that teaches on the endocannabinoid system and the safe utilization of cannabis and other progressive tools to help people reach a better quality of life.
I'm the founder of Holistic Caring. We're based here in California, and we do educational programs and case management for patients on how to use cannabis therapeutically as a medicine.
We're also here to decrease stigma around what it means to feel good and be high, hence the H for hope, I for inspiration, G for growth, and H for healing.
As the founder of Holistic Caring, I basically oversee the whole ship. And what we're doing is progressive education.
Cannabis actually supports all 11 organ systems, our immune system, and all the neurotransmitter signaling systems that give messages to tell our body to either do something or not do something. Because the plant was prohibited, it prevented health professionals, doctors and nurses from learning about cannabis as medicine.
I want to change the paradigm of healthcare and us paving the way into a new vanguard of medicine.
It's about education, it's about empowerment, it's about teaching people how to feel good, bridging the gap from what they're not getting from traditional medicine, utilizing different plant medicines, adaptogens, tips, tricks, hugs, and nugs of information to support and nourish the most important system in our body.
And it's a lot of soul work, a lot of love, a lot of discipline, and meditation. I'm using my life work as a testimony to others to learn how they can be their own hero and then go help heal the world.
And we are, as nurses, the game changers.
Oops, and there you have it. Growing in cannabis, growing in health. Welcome everyone to the Green Nurse Podcast. My name is Sherry Mack, and I'm the Vice President of Nursing and co-founding of Holistic Caring and the Green Nurse and Bloom Hemp CBD. I'm a cannabis nurse, patient, advocate, activist, and a very passionate podcaster here to change the paradigm of healthcare with my friend Elizabeth here. And I'm really excited to announce that this is my 7th year podcasting, The Green Nurse, Living Your Best Life. Started podcasting in 2018 when the National Council State Boards of Nursing came out with their guidelines that all nurses must have 6 essential areas of knowledge when it comes to cannabis as medicine. I started podcasting to share compelling stories of healing and to decrease stigma, since I too use cannabis as medicine. But before we get started on our very excited show today, we have a message from our sponsors at Bloom Hemp. Elizabeth, you want to tell us about Bloom? And I can just bring Bloom right up on stage here to say hello.
Sure. So Bloom Hemp is a woman and nurse-owned hemp CBD supplier with USDA organic hemp CBD grown in the mountains of Evergreen, Colorado, and tested for potency, purity, cannabinoid and terpene profiles. And the other thing that's great about Bloom Hemp is that it offers a free nurse line. Call 1-970-404-HOPE or 4673. And then you can also go to the services tab, fill out a mini intake form, and get a free email care plan from one of our nurses or our pharmacist who is always staffing up. So you can't go wrong at Bloom Hemp.
Yes, thank you, Bloom Hemp, for sponsoring this show. We are grateful. And so cannabis nursing, if you didn't all know this, has been recognized as a specialty, and nurses are truly making an impact of advocating for the safe therapeutic use of cannabis by teaching on the endocannabinoid system and how to optimize cannabis as medicine for health, healing, and wellness purposes. So the Green Nurse podcast was created as a media outlet to share those impactful stories of recovery and healing with the goal of demystifying the societal stigma surrounding the medicinal use of cannabis. And so today's guest, we're really excited to have on. He's got an amazing story. He is the CEO and founder of Tetragram, an award-winning health tech company based in Baltimore, Maryland. Otha Smith III is the genius behind Tetragram's HIPAA-compliant mobile app, which leverages consumer product behavioral data to provide healthcare professionals with a clear understanding of the potential effects of cannabis use. Otha is a Maryland native who grew up in Southern Anne Arundel County and graduated from Bowie State University, a historically Black college. A seasoned entrepreneur, Otha started his first company, Aggressive Detailing LLC, while in high school. Otha has been featured in Baltimore Business Journal, Capital Gazette, Americans for Safe Access, the New Jersey Cannabis Insider, and many other publications highlighting his work. Marijuana Venture magazine recognized him as one of the top 40 under 40 rising stars in cannabis in 2021. And Tetragram was highlighted by the Baltimore Business Journal as one of the top 5 startups to watch in 2022. And we are really grateful to have you on today. So welcome to the show.
That's some good.
It's a pleasure being here. Thank you for allowing me to be a guest and share my story and tell more about Tetragram. I'm excited.
Yeah. So, we all don't wake up one day and say, hey, I'm going to go into the cannabis industry. There's usually a compelling story, and we're really excited to hear and have you share your story. So can you tell us a little bit about your background and how you became interested in using medical cannabis?
Yeah, absolutely. And you're exactly right. I never thought I'd own a tech company, never thought cannabis be legalized, but that's the beauty of life, right? You never know what's around the corner. I got into cannabis. I grew up in Southern Anne Arundel County, as you mentioned, a very rural part of Maryland. So, I grew up on like 3-4 acres of land. Everyone I knew was notorious for growing cannabis in some shape or form. And my family is from Barbados originally. So, holistic plant-based medicine has always been, the rule of thumb to address anything before you start to venture down the path of using prescription pills. But in 2006 is when, my life took a dramatic change, and that was the result of a car accident. So unfortunately for myself, I fell asleep at the wheel. I was driving home 5 minutes from the house, like it typically happens. I fell asleep at the wheel and was ejected about 30 feet. Now, when I was ejected, I was actually pronounced dead on the scene because I had landed on my head, which I suffered this beautiful scar that you can see today. Wow. That's the result of 36 staples, and I suffered a traumatic brain injury as a result. But luckily for me, I had nurses on hand. One of my good friends was going to school to become a doctor at Johns Hopkins, which she is today. So it was her medical instinct that ran to my aid until the helicopter arrived. But once I was released from the hospital months later, I was prescribed this a dangerous cocktail of prescription pills, Xanax, Percocets, Oxycontin. I mean, you name it, it was thrown at me. And keep in mind, prior to getting in that car accident, I could count on one hand, how many times I've used any type of pill, let alone an aspirin. So, I took that course of action for about 3 years, and, the monkey got on my back very quickly, as we know how addictive these prescription pills can be. And I said, this is not the life I want to live, right? So, at that time, my girlfriend was like, we got to do something different. Like the side effects were just getting out of control. And so I started to resort back to cannabis because, again, I grew up around it. My father smoked it, but I never really partaked on a daily basis. I, of course, used it just for fun at times, but it really didn't harness the medical benefit it had. So that's what led me down this journey to create, what we had today, Tetragram, but what got me initially involved in the industry. So, took that approach and just never looked back when I saw the benefits it provided to me over prescription pills.
Wow.
Yeah. We can relate.
Can totally relate. Yeah, I was on 18 pharmaceuticals at one point in time.
Yeah, made a dozen.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
so you guys know firsthand.
yeah. And I think for the viewers, I want them to understand we're not anti-pharmaceutical, but you
No.
just need to be very cognizant of the pharmaceuticals. And what I didn't realize, specifically if we're going to talk about cannabinoids and endocannabinoid system, if you're on 5 or more pharmaceuticals, there's a 50% chance that they're interacting. If you're on 10 or more pharmaceuticals, there's 100% that they're interacting and probably not in your best and highest interest.
So the goal needs to be limiting the pharmaceuticals, limiting their dosage, limiting their usage, limiting their time and duration. When you think about, Xanax or oxycodone, those are supposed to be used for a month tops.
Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah. And I'm glad you pointed that out too, because I'm not trying to cast a lot of dark and negative comments about prescription pills, because they do have their place. But I just feel like, like I have a T-shirt that says "But first, cannabis," right? So let's try something more plant-based, more natural that God gave us before we started going down the rabbit hole of using prescription pills. So thanks for calling that out. That's definitely true.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, okay. So when you first started to use cannabis, did you have someone to teach you how to do it?
Yeah. As a medicine, as opposed to just
did you, it was a kind of cool. I'll tell you my introduction. I went and got my medical card. I said, okay, doctor, now what? And he goes, good luck, kid.
Yeah.
So I had to figure it out on my own. So did you have someone help you?
So I had a little bit of guidance, but not much. I mean, I'll be the first to admit, like, being around cannabis all my life, when it, my home state of Maryland, when it became legal, it was medical first. And, I walked into a dispensary a little egotistical, like, what can they tell me about cannabis? I've seen it all. And boy, was that the wrong answer, the wrong approach, right? Because, I had only seen cannabis in flower form. And of course, friends of ours, we would, take cannabis and put it into brownies and things of that sort. But, shatter, wax, butter, cannabinoids, terpenes, the endocannabinoid system. These are just things you don't hear in the legacy market before it became legal. But fortunate enough for me, as I was overwhelmed and, somewhat intimidated with this process of seeing this new world of cannabis, at that time, Maryland it was legislated that every dispensary had to have a clinical director on hand at the dispensary. So I definitely want to give my praises to Barbara O'Chester, because she really was the one who, provided that white glove treatment, if you will, to educate me about terpenes and cannabinoids, and, help me digest this information, because it's coming at you like a fire hose when you're in the dispensary. I mean, you're just really blown away and don't know where to start,
Yeah, I love Barbara. She was with us in the American Cannabis Nursing Association, on the board with me initially. And just a lovely, lovely woman working in Maryland and doing really good work in education and outreach on how to use cannabis as a medicine and to normalize it. Because, people that walk into a dispensary don't necessarily know, how it's supposed to work. And that is the work of nurses.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, and I think it really spoke volumes to customers that were coming into the store, because, Barbara's in her early 70s, I believe. And so, when people would come into the dispensary and see this woman in her 70s talking about the benefits of cannabis, it really helped normalize that conversation. And, you had a lot of people coming in, similar in age, that were just like, oh, well, she's doing it. What am I hiding about? Right. So I've seen that play out, and it's just amazing to witness.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's amazing. So, okay, and finding the right products. So one of the questions we had here, was it a lot for you to manage your symptoms? Did you have to try a lot of different things? So for people that are new out there, what would you, if they had a traumatic brain injury, what would your guidance be for, what works for you? So sometimes some people would, because I know what I take has changed over time, over the years.
And I was going to say, early on when you first discovered it, and then
now,
modern day. What's your dosing regime?
So when you first started using cannabis, as you became educated, you learned more and more. How has your habits of your ability to medicate with it changed with now the knowledge that you have from your journey?
Oh, it's night and day. I mean, I remember, prior to stepping foot into a dispensary and just using cannabis, it was just like, smoke as much as I can, right? Like, I just really just thought more was better. And now, fast forward to today, I always joke, I say I'm a diva when it comes to cannabis now, because prior I was just like, smoke as much as you can. The more you smoke, the higher you're going to get. Found out that's not true. Found out that like THC, looking at those and be like, oh, the higher the THC, the better. That's not true. So I really started to understand that, like, cannabis affects everyone differently, and, really answered the question of like why me and my friends would all be, same body mass for the most part, smoking the same plant, but yet we all had different experience to a degree. So I really started to home in on like, the different cannabinoids and terpenes, and understanding like, oh, so beta-caryophyllene and myrcene and linalool really align with my endocannabinoid system. They make me calm. They make me relax. I mean, I wake up every morning and run 3 miles, so I don't need anything that's like high in pinene or, things of that sort that are going to give me more energy. I got enough of that. If I could package it up and sell it, I probably wouldn't be talking to you guys. I'd be on a beach, but so now I never pay attention to THC content. I now only pay attention to what does that product consist of in terms of terpenes and cannabinoids. When it comes to smoking and inhalation, now, when it relates to edibles, I know that like, 5 milligrams is my max. Like, I'm very sensitive to edibles. And I realized also that, especially when it comes to like the symptoms associated with my TBI, like anxiety was something I never had before. Now I have spurts of it, and using a edible that's like a 1-to-1 ratio is like totally my jam now. Getting that CBD in there so it really aligns with my receptors, and then the THC to help us bring that calming effect. I mean, I've learned a tremendous amount, and that's one of the reasons why it led me to develop Tetragram to, empower people, because, I went through a long process of trial and error. I mean, it probably took a little more than a year to really get it dialed into where I am now. So I knew that if we could build a platform that gave people the ability to journal their experience, and then over time, shorten that period where it took to find that sweet spot, then, I sleep well at night.
Yeah,
nice.
For sure.
Yeah. So let's talk about Tetragram. And, and the inspiration that around launching this digital journal.
Yeah. So, kind of going through that process of trial and error, I was talking to other folks, and I was like, so what are you trying? And what are you doing? And everybody had a different answer. But one thing that was synonymous is that, like, when I was talking to Barbara and other medical professionals, they always recommended that I keep a journal. They always recommended that I write down all the products that I was using, how much, and so forth. And I started witnessing, when I would go to different dispensaries or just talk to doctors, that dispensaries were selling these journals, and they were flying off the shelf. Like, people were just buying them, or they were just giving them out for free. And that pretty much was like the light bulb effect, if you will, where I was like, okay, there's really a need here. But everything we do in this digital age that we're in is on our phone. So, that's what led me to create an app that essentially gives people that same ability to record, their personal experiences with cannabis, but also using that technology so that we can create a community where people can learn from each other. And our personal experiences can be shared with a dispensary if we like, or more importantly, with folks like yourself, our healthcare providers.
Yeah. So let's talk about the app.
What are some of the features of this app? And pardon my cough. I wasn't just smoking.
He hasn't smoked in ages.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, there's a long list of things that we do with Tetragram, but at our core, one of the things that we have is, again, from the consumer's perspective. So when they come in and download our app that's readily available on Apple or Android, Google Play Store, free of charge, they can create their own profile. But more importantly, we made it very seamless and easy. Where I always use the words fun and engaging for them to tell us, what symptom they're looking to treat with that cannabis product. How much, where did they make the purchase? More importantly, how did they consume the product? And then how many inhalations or, milligrams of that product did they take? And then, of course, they can take pictures, so they can associate it by including photos of the product. In most cases, people are taking pictures of the label so that they can recall exactly what that product consisted of too. Even though we do offer the ability for them to do that in other ways. But, once they rate the product, they can then share that information with other users of the platform. And one of the things I always like to call out, because I feel is very important, is that Tetragram is HIPAA compliant. And we knew that was very important because we wanted to protect the identity of people who are using cannabis, and all of the data that we collect on the back end is completely de-identified. So we have no way of tracing it back to one individual. But one of the things I'm really excited about when we release this latest version is people have the ability to actually schedule appointments with people such as yourself, right? Where, if I want to get certified for cannabis, if I just want to learn more general information about, am I doing this the right way, and actually connect with a healthcare professional, we've made that easy for them to do that all in one place. And it's really been rewarding to see people, take advantage of that. And then, the other thing that's really exciting is, we built a QR code into Tetragram so that, any provider who's a partner of ours or a dispensary that's a partner of ours, you share that QR code, and now they have access to what we call your cannabis medical chart. So that if I'm in a dispensary, I can share that QR code, and now that dispensary agent knows exactly what I've tried, what has worked, what hasn't. And then it puts them in a position where they can be more consultative with me, in the same place with regard to healthcare professionals.
Yeah. So tell me, have you been doing any research? We just clicked on the data and research. And if you scroll up. So do you have some research partners? Have you been doing anything with universities? That sort of thing.
Yeah, great question. So we did, we've done 2 studies so far. One was in collaboration with the College of New Jersey. And so in that instance, we actually sent out a survey that my team and the College of New Jersey worked on together. And we blasted that email out to all of our users at that time. I think at that time we had like 15,000 users on the platform. This was 2 years ago. And we gathered some really great insights in terms of why people are using cannabis, what they're using, what their knowledge of cannabis is, and so forth. And then the other research that we did that was really powerful was with the Cannabis Center of Excellence, led by Dr. Marion McNabb. Yeah. And this one was kind of like the first of its kind because, and I say that because we actually teamed up with a cultivator called Gibby's Garden. So a major shout out to them. That provided these 120 veterans with the cannabis free of charge. And then the veterans actually utilized our app and said, all right, we provided you with these various medicines. Now you're required to track your health and wellness through our platform. So it was no surprise that this research was conducted exclusively on veterans. And we found that, the top three or four things that these veterans were looking to treat with cannabis were PTSD, chronic pain, anxiety, depression, and insomnia. And when you think about it, these all play off each other, right? Like if you're depressed or if you have anxiety, you're not going to sleep well. If you don't sleep well, you're probably going to have anxiety. So, it was really rewarding to see that data come in. And then furthermore, I'll just say that, we did find that these veterans found the most relief with flower that was around 16% THC. So again, it just speaks to what we all know, that high THC percentages is not the answer.
Not the answer for PTSD or anxiety or pain
or depression.
Insomnia or depression.
Yes.
None of the above needs a 32% THC. So
yes.
Half of that is about right, balanced with some CBD and other terpenes, like you mentioned earlier. Although, pinene is something that is good. You just don't want, extreme amounts of it. But, the pinene can help mitigate some of the psychoactive effects of THC and then also help that memory. So that you're not losing your short-term memory quite as much from the THC.
Yeah, exactly right. So this speaks volumes about like how, having that full spectrum, right? Like you mentioned, the CBD, the terpenes and so forth really go a long way. It's not just THC.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. So, and then I saw the provider tab. So we just got included at Holistic Caring and
Yeah,
the
I'll
Green
go
Nurse.
back.
So are any of the providers getting some clients out of this? Because we can, recommend it to other people that I know, so providers, yeah,
Yeah.
drivers, nurses.
Yeah, absolutely. They're definitely getting benefit out of it. We're doing a heavy marketing push that we're going to be releasing here pretty soon. So, we expect to see more traffic being driven to the app, and then of course that dovetails into, more interactions with patients. Leveraging that providers tab within the application. So it's really exciting, and the other benefit of it too is, as you guys well know, is there's very limited channels where health professionals can actually advertise their services in the cannabis space. It's really unfortunate that like you guys are here to help people find a benefit in cannabis, but yet it's hard for you to get your message out. So we knew that this was going to be an important gateway to help address that, and then give you that visibility.
It's absolutely huge because we are both been doing this 10 years each, right? Since we first healed ourselves, and then trained hundreds and hundreds of nurses and other clinicians, and then have coached 6,000 patients between us.
Wow.
But we can't get the news out because A, people don't even know to look for us, and B, they wouldn't know where to even start. People aren't necessarily Googling cannabis nurses, but there are, about 1,000 of us, give or take, in America. And I know that every one of them would love to get their message out more, and to really get this out as something. So on the provider side, but then also the patients, right? Like think about all the patients that don't want to be, playing pin the tail on the donkey and with a blindfold. That like what they do. Is spending a lot of time and money
on dispensaries. That was me spending my first.
Me too.
My first shopping trip, $420.
$420 for real?
I'm not kidding. And I put all this cannabis out. I had flowers. I had everything you could think of. And I sat there and I looked at it and I said, if I could figure this out, you can call me the Green Nurse.
Well, I mean, you bring up a good point too. So like, when I left corporate America, so I used to sell electric and gas commodities for the largest utility in the country. So talk about like, white collar job, corporate life all the way. And when I left and said, I'm going to build this application to help change lives, the first thing I did was get a job at a dispensary because I want to know the pain points that customers go through. I want to know the pain points that being an operator goes through. But to your point about how much you spent on cannabis, like I'll never forget this one woman who came in routinely, and she was, I can't remember her condition exactly, but she was looking to solve a certain medical condition. And that's another thing I always mention to everyone who will listen is like when customers come into a dispensary, they're shopping based upon two ways. They have two motives. One is they're looking for a product that's going to give them a certain experience, or they're looking for a product that's going to treat a certain symptom that's associated with a medical condition. That's just point blank. But this woman, like I said, she would routinely come in, and the last time that I spoke with her, she was like super frustrated. She's like, I'm like, what's wrong? She's like, spending hundreds of dollars on cannabis. I'm still not figuring out what's working. Some of it's knocking me out. Some of it's keeping me up all night. And so, it just speaks volumes to like what people go through as they're trying to figure it out. And that's why I knew that we had a valuable solution when we're building Tetragram.
Yeah. And also too, the tracking is really important. I just have a funny story to share. So when I was new and experimenting and shopping at many dispensaries with all these different types of products, I would forget that I didn't like something. Right. And then I went back and bought it again.
Yep. Exactly.
Like, you have to track, and then you rate it too. You give it a scale, a number 0 to 10. 0 is awful, 10 is the best, and rating the product and going through that because that product I might want to use at a different point in time. Yeah. Don't throw it away, because I can actually pinpoint that product that I didn't like and why I didn't like it might be useful in the future for something else.
Yeah.
And we have a form that we give to all of our clients, 1 to 10 on pain, sleep, anxiety, focus, memory, happiness, joy, blood pressure, blood sugar changes.
And then overall, how was your day? Like, give it a 0 to 10.
Yeah.
0 was shitty, 10 was the best day ever, right? And you can literally track that and see the different combinations of products that you've used, because we teach stacking, right?
Mhm.
Using multiple different types of products at the same time, to keep tolerance low, keep the cost low, and keep multiple cannabinoids,
Flowing.
circulating through your system to nudge all of those receptors appropriately.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I mean, one of the things that I recently figured out, like last summer, and I was actually featured, like the New York Times did an article on me, was my utilization of cannabis when it comes to working out and exercising. So as I mentioned, like I run a 5K every morning. On the weekends, I run 10 to 15 miles. And so, with joint pain being very real as a result, I really wanted to dial it in to figure out how can I use cannabis as a pre-workout or post-workout for recovery. And that took some time and, some laughable moments where I definitely took too much and just cramped up and couldn't even get a mile accomplished. But again, I was able to dial it in. I came to the conclusion, for me personally, that again, a 1-to-1 5 milligram is my sweet spot. So, again, it just takes time, but there's just so many ways that cannabis can be utilized, to improve the quality of life, regardless of what you're doing,
When you could barely finish a mile, what did you have?
I had flour and I smoked like I actually smoked a dog walker. That's what it was. And I was like, okay. And I've come to the conclusion that like smoking itself was just not good for me. And so the dog walker was 1/4 gram. So it wasn't much, but I just come to the conclusion, like even when I did it, just a couple puffs, it still didn't work for me. It just tightened up my muscles. I would just cramp right away. Whereas edibles, just gave me, the oil, if you will, like Wizard of Oz. This gave me the oil in my joints to push through and not even feel pain.
Yeah, I've heard that over and over again. Don't smoke before any kind of cardiovascular exercise, and it also could trigger other things, heart attacks, arrhythmias, things like that. So definitely you want the oral route, sublingual tinctures or a nice edible half hour before your run, kicking in. You're lifting off just right.
Yeah, exactly.
And then it helps you to get into that flow state.
Yeah.
You get a breathing down. You kind of get into this your groove.
Oh yeah, you're just saying. I mean, for me, it's just total zen. People laugh like, oh, I can't believe I'm sharing this, but yeah, like I'll listen to like Patti LaBelle and like some good 70s R&B, and I'm just in a zone.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Some good stuff.
Some Luther Vandross. I mean, you name it, I'll do it.
That's great.
Yep.
Oh,
There you go.
absolutely fabulous. So what else do we have going on here? So the future plans of your company, Tetragram. Let's talk about that.
Oh man,
What's going on with Tetragram? Are there plans in the future
to expand it?
Yeah, I mean, we're doing some really exciting stuff. I mean, one of the things that I'm excited about, and shout out to Catherine Golden, she's my right hand on this project, but the state of Colorado wants to be the first state to have cannabis be covered under an insurance policy. And they're going to be utilizing the workers' comp fund to do so. So Catherine is actually giving a presentation on the work that we've been doing, our pilot program, and every regulator from every state is going to be at this conference, hearing about the work we're doing. So essentially, this is something I'm very excited about because it will be a game changer, not only for our nation, but it's going to make international news. But essentially, each patient will be eligible to receive up to $350 reimbursement for any purchases of cannabis that they make, as long as they're eligible. And so the state will make, the doctors that are qualified and by the state will make their recommendations on what products to use through Tetragram. The patient will get that recommendation, show it to the dispensary staff, and then they're required to track their health and wellness through our platform in order to get that reimbursement. So that's a game changer, right? We always talk about having cannabis be covered like any other traditional medicine. So I'm excited about it. Just hope it makes its way through the legislature without any problems. But in terms of like different tech development that we have in the mix, we're really focused on incorporating people's prescription pill use, as we mentioned earlier, right? So we do know that there's a unique mingling between prescription pills and cannabis, and we want to see what that looks like from a data perspective. AI is really hot right now. We've always had intentions on using it, but not in the way that AI is used right now, where it's gathering information from millions of people and then spitting out outcomes. Our AI is going to be proprietary, so it's not going to be built off of ChatGPT or Watson or anything like that. But we're building it with the help of a strategic partner, so that it's going to be centralized to each individual. So every user at Tetragram will have their own AI that is completely fed exclusively off the data that they've entered, the reviews, if you will, into Tetragram. So that's going to be really exciting.
Wow. That is really, really cool. All of the above, right? And first of all, sign us up right after Colorado, because I spent 20 years inside health plans. So this is I could only handle my first 9 years in hospitals. Then I had to get an MBA and get into healthcare administration, and so I have a lot of contacts at insurance companies. So I want to mimic everything that you guys are doing out here, because the largest state, 40 million people, the $5 billion cannabis industry, all of that belongs here. Because I totally have a dream that we're going to be doing the tracking and getting CBD to be covered from conventional care, and then training the health plan staff to manage disease management with cannabinoids and pharmaceuticals, and help them step down on the pharmaceuticals and step up on the cannabinoids in ways that make sense with outcome tracking, and then cost reduction. And so imagine all the lives we can save, as well as the billions of dollars. That's amazing. And then the personalized AI, gosh, that is really, really cool. It gets smarter, tunes into you as an individual and not just a number, just a participant in the trial, right? It's like, what does Elizabeth need? What does Sherry need? What does Otha need? And it'll help you get smarter in your discernment.
Yeah, I mean, exactly right. That's why, I was fortunate enough to find this company that does these proprietary AI models that are just built off your own data. So I'm super excited about it, because as we all know, right, like cannabis affects everyone differently. So it doesn't make sense to feed an AI model data from me, data from you. It only makes sense to have that data come exclusively from you, so that it can really learn what's working best for you. And so, with that thing that we're doing in Colorado, a lot of my business development focus right now has been trying to get meetings scheduled with these large EMRs, such as Epic, such as Athena Health, and so forth. Because, when we look at Tetragram, my team and I, we don't look at where the industry is today, because we know it's not going to be like this even a month from now, let alone 5 years from now. So, we're preparing ourselves for that legalization when that does happen, so that as a doctor, cannabis being covered, there's not multiple portals that you have to go through. You could go through your regular Epic and still see the information related from Tetragram, so that you just have a centralized place.
Perfect.
That's great. That's amazing. And so, and some of the other companies that you're working with on your app, so Holistic Caring and the Green Nurse, we're there as providers, and Bloom Hemp CBD, we're one of the first companies that you are integrating into your platform to
have online ordering.
Ordering.
Yeah, I'm super excited about this. I mean, I couldn't be more excited, to be honest, because everything on our app for right now is all THC focused. So having Bloom and your products on our platform is going to be a great avenue for our patients to get access and purchase directly through the app. So this is going to be a game changer. You are by far the first company that we've done this with. So here we are working together, same mission, same passion. And let's just make it easy.
So people can go right to the app, they can sign up, they can get in, they can see our coaching, they can see our products, they can see other products from other dispensaries, and they can start using these and track all in the same place.
Call the nurse line, get an email care plan. track bundles, and we can do bundle tracking as well, right? Like the calming bundle, the sleep bundle, the pain bundle, the et cetera. And then they can itemize out each one of them. Here's how I use this, but here was the results. Here's what I like. Here's what I might not have liked. Although without so much THC, there's not much to not like. most of the pushing back from a product is too much THC, and we all know that, right?
Yeah.
But this is what you want to fold in with the THC to make the THC more tolerable and work better at lower doses.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we're just, that's why I'm really gracious, really appreciative of everything you guys are doing. And I appreciate you guys giving us grace as we build this out, because it is the first of its kind. But it's going to be really exciting because it is creating that ecosystem where it's like, oh, I can buy these products, see these products through Tetragram and rate them and provide that feedback directly back to you folks. So super excited to launch it. We definitely got to put a good campaign together when this goes live.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And October's coming up, and I'm just going to mention we have a newsletter coming out on October 1st to talk about psychedelics, because we're also psychedelic nurses. So I wanted to know, is Tetragram going to also tap into psychedelic medicines?
All plant medicines.
All plant medicines.
100%. I mean, that's one question we get all the time from our users, from general public, whatever. Is offering that. And I think that, I don't know if it'll be, 2025 we'll do it, but because we're still trying to get a handle on some things from the cannabis space, but it's definitely in the cards. And so I envision people coming to Tetragram, opening up the app, and then the first question they're asked is, is this a cannabis experience you want to track, or is this a psilocybin experience? So definitely want to go that route, because the same problem exists, right? Like, granted, there's not as many varieties of mushrooms to choose from, but the same problem exists where people don't know which mushroom strain to choose, and they don't know how much. So it's still a learning process.
Yeah, and there's a lot of different strains. There's a lot of different vendors. There's a lot of different experiences. So when it comes to tracking psilocybin or some of the other psychedelics, all of that needs to be done fairly methodically, because there is such a bad, just like cannabis can have horrible experiences, so can psychedelics. And so are some of the profiteering companies that are out there just trying to make a buck. Who knows, right? So we need more tracking, but it's not something that needs to be done tomorrow at all, because it's still Schedule illegal. 1. It's still it MAPS and all of their work since 1980 and $130 million they've raised to get FDA approval is still up against a wall, because how conservative this country is. But there's a lot of favorability. In fact, last night I was reading a Medscape article that showed head-to-head psilocybin versus Lexapro and how it really did in depression scales, as well as quality of life experiences, sexual functioning, because we all know that antidepressants ixnay that, whereas psilocybin improved it, and then just functionality. Some of the things that they're not even asking about on the clinical trials. It's, the negative effects of depression. Are you sleeping? Are you eating? Are you showing up to your job? Does your family hate you a little less? But it's not like what's meaningful to you about life. Whereas these kind of things where people can journal, and then can they save these entries and reflect back over time?
Absolutely. On our app, any session is what we would call a review of a product. That goes back to your digital timeline, so you can scroll through that if you want, or if you want to be more precise, you can say, hey, I want to search for products that I've tried through inhalation, or tried through topically, or orally, whatever the case may be. So we definitely make it easy for you to resort back to previous experience, so that you can, get a glimpse into what worked and what didn't. Cool. But it's really fascinating, and you bring up a good point, which is the reason why we're taking our time, right? Like, Rome wasn't built in one day. We still got a lot of problems to solve with cannabis here, and we're building out new functionality every day to address these nuances. So once we feel like we got a good handle on these nuances that exist in cannabis, we'll start to look at psilocybin as the next thing to tackle. Ketamine is another one, where we're getting a lot of MDMA is another one. I mean, the list goes on in terms of, things that people want to keep track of. And, journaling is nothing new. It's just hyper important in cannabis because this is a medicine. Like, if it's January 1st and you're like, hey, I'm gonna get in shape and start eating better, that physical trainer or that nutritionist is probably going to tell you to download an app so you can keep track of your workouts and your food intake, right? So this is not reinvent the wheel. It's just putting it more so in the focus of plant-based medicine.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And plants are the future.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Totally. They are. So do you have any other questions?
Well, what haven't we covered yet? Yeah.
Well, maybe about products in detail. Is there a
Yeah,
requirement?
like how do you find new people to market Tetragram to? Are dispensaries marketing you? Because that's one of the other things, acquisition costs and how do you find new people to find out about you, which will help us find out about us and that sort of thing. Like how do people find Tetragram?
So a number of ways, through fabulous folks like yourself who are saying, hey, if you're going to start using cannabis, Tetragram is a great avenue to use. So, the medical community is definitely our biggest evangelist, if you will, or promoting Tetragram to patients and consumers in general. Dispensaries as well. We've been very fortunate to, eclipse over 300 dispensaries nationwide within just 5 years, which is kind of unheard of, to get that much buy-in from dispensaries that are just promoting our app. So, we find we use those as another way. And then, of course, social media. I think, I always joke when I think about like how much time I've been on the road or been in airplanes or trains. Like I remember when we launched Tetragram in July 10th, 2020, I'll never forget it, the height of COVID. My car, I bought a new car at that time, and my car now has 160,000 miles on it in 5 years. So, I'm in the community. My team is in the community, and we're doing pop-up events. We're where consumers are so that we can help educate. So it's a hybrid approach of a number of avenues that we take in order to get the word out.
Yeah.
But by far, my heart always, the medical community by far has a piece of my heart because, you guys really truly are our savior in terms of getting this word out about our platform.
Yeah. We're really grateful to be on the platform. We're really grateful to be able to share the message and to be able to utilize it and share it with the patients and the nurses that we train. So this podcast will be shared amongst all of the people in our Cannabis Nurse Health Coach program, as well as throughout social media and also on Red Coral Universe.
I think it's funny that your car has 160,000 miles in 5 years. My car is 10 years old and it has exactly half that, 80,000.
Right.
That's two things. One, we do almost all telehealth. Two, I'm an introvert. I don't want to go out.
My Ford truck has been treating me well, knock on wood. But when I tell people, 160,000 miles in 5 years, they're like, come again? I'm like,
wow. That's
a lot.
It's a lot. You're on the road.
I'm on the move. I got it down to a science where, I do so many webinars and presentations, regular meetings in the back seat of my truck, and people never know.
That's amazing.
That is cool.
It's very cool.
That's very cool. Well, do you have a family? Who do you want to give a shout out to?
Definitely want to give a shout out to my daughter. She's 22 at Virginia Tech, studying to be a veterinarian. So, she's finishing up her final year there. So I'm excited about that. And, trying to get her a little involved in the business is interesting. Definitely want to give a shout out to my entire team, my co-founders, all of our engineers. But again, more importantly, I just want to give a shout out to the medical community and our dispensary partners, but, hyper focused on the medical community, folks like yourself who are just doing the groundbreaking work of, chipping away at that negative stigma associated with cannabis and showing that people of all ages and walks of life are utilizing this product. And it has been utilized for thousands of years. When we won't get into the reasons why it became illegal, but my hat and my flowers always tip off to you, because you're on the front lines dealing with people who are tipping their toe into it, or fully submersed but still trying to figure it out. So
so corporate interests, greed, racism,
tobacco industry, pharmaceutical industry, paper industry,
ignorance,
food industry,
xenophobia. Anybody that wasn't an old prohibitionist white guy. That it was horrible. But thank goodness it's 2024 now. 2.5 weeks from today, on Saturday, October 12th, Society of Cannabis Clinicians is having a conference in your neck of the woods. I hope you're attending. One of our peers, Nurse Laura, will be there. We love Nurse Laura, so shout out to her.
And Camille.
And Camille, our new community relations manager in DC. Would love to have you meet her.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so stoked about it too, because it's in my backyard. They actually reached out to us and asked us if we were going to do like a poster illustrating some of the data that we collected. So I'm working with the team here to see if we can make that happen, because we definitely want to illustrate all this data that we're collecting, right? I think it's time, and that's ultimately our goal anyway. We've reached a point where we have more than enough data to put out there, and that's our goal. At the end of the day, I've been fortunate enough to have investors that aren't worried about the bottom line and making revenue. We know that will come. Right now, it's just about uplifting our people and giving them the tool that they can use to succeed in finding their optimal dose, if you will.
That's awesome. Yeah, you're going to have at least 200 clinicians, they said, are attending. So it's going to be a wonderful day. And so I wish you well and good luck on your poster.
And we hope Tetragram blows up in the most positive, amazing way.
And appreciate you. Are you guys coming? Are you guys going to be there? Or
No, if it was last year we went, it was in LA. It's down the road.
Okay.
Baltimore's a little far. And we went to CanMed in Marco Island, Florida this May. And then we went up to Rochester, Minnesota at the Mayo Center for the American Holistic Nursing Association. And at the end of October, we'll be in Cabo just for some R&R.
And then
next June we'll be
speaking in San Diego.
Yeah, we'll be speaking in San Diego in November, and then
in a couple of weeks we're speaking online at a big nurse fest.
Nurse fest on the therapeutic use of cannabis and psychedelics. And the fusion of them. And then next June, I'm hopeful that my abstract will be approved for the American Holistic Nursing Association to do a pre-conference intensive, where it's 3.5 hours of training nurses on cannabinoids and how it all works, and then how to add this to their clinic. And that's for a takeaway on my side. It's just, don't think that you're going to just go be a cannabis nurse and that's all you need to do. No, you add cannabis nursing as the cherry on top of what you're already doing. Because there's not a whole lot of ways to really earn a living at this just yet. But if you are skilled in cannabis therapeutics as a nurse, as a pharmacist, as a naturopath or chiropractor or acupuncturist, or a doctor for that matter, you are one of the heroes in America, because everybody needs to know in a clinical context how to use this as a medicine. And it's far time that we get rid of it's a drug of abuse. You have cannabis use disorder if you come in an ER and you've had recent use. It's just crazy. So
preach. I love it.
And I'm going to preach a little bit too, because this Friday, September 27th, 2024, will be happy 1-year anniversary to Cannabis Nursing. Cannabis Nursing was recognized as a specialty on September 27th, 2023. Actually, completely 100%, giving kudos to the nurses that, including us. I'm going to say thumbs up to us for doing all this work. We've been recognized. Cannabis Nursing is recognized as a specialty. Nurses are going to be able to, at some point in time, sit and take an exam to get board certified. The American Nurses Association and the American Cannabis Nurses Association just published a book in May of this year, The Scope and Standards of Nursing, which is really, really exciting. were written about in that book. Elizabeth's book is in that book, and our programs at Holistic Caring and the Green Nurse is also written in scope and standards. So it's just really, really exciting times. And for nurses, like Elizabeth said, you need to make this an and it's also important because cannabis nursing, A, is recognized as a specialty, and B, in 2018, the National Council State Boards of Nursing, which is the nursing regulatory board that puts out the exams for all nurses. This is in 2018, folks, said that all nurses, nurse practitioners, and student nurses must have 6 essential areas of knowledge when it comes to cannabis as medicine. So get started. Let's get everyone on Tetragram to get started, right? You got to start somewhere. You got to learn somewhere. You got to start learning about these different medicines, start learning about the different providers, start learning about dispensaries and CBD companies such as us that are doing the right things for the right reasons. And that's my soapbox for today.
And I think that's the best closeout right there I could imagine. So
yes.
We're a good 1-2 punch.
We are. So don't hang up.
Thank you so much for coming on, Otha.
Don't hang up.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Yep, we're going to end with my little video, my favorite video that I always like to end with, and then we'll chat after the show. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in. And totally remember what it is all about. It is truly all about living your best life and helping others do the same.
Absolutely.
We're here to educate and empower patients to make choices that are best for them. We're also here to decrease stigma around what it means to feel good and be high. Hence the H for hope, I for inspiration, G for growth, and H for healing. The Green Nurse is a holistic cannabis nurse that teaches on the endocannabinoid system and the safe utilization of cannabis and other progressive tools to help people reach a better quality of life.
I was cannabis agnostic for many, many years. And the more research I did, the more I discovered that cannabis is this amazing medicine.
I was told that I had a 4-stage pancreatic cancer. The doctor really told me he couldn't do anything else. He gave me her name and she called me and she came to my house. She started to give me cannabis. My oncologist was puzzled because he couldn't find the cancer anymore.
All of the learning that we get comes from the Green Nurses Group, comes from their support, comes from their guidance. I trust everything that she says.
Simply meet people where they're at. The plant doesn't, stress to grow, so we don't stress to share it. We're healing people.
Cannabis has been used as a medicine for tens upon thousands of years. Here's the big message. Cannabis needs to be federally legal. We need to have laws that are the same across all 50 states that allow access to anyone and everyone who wants to utilize this powerful medicine.